Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode in this Tweed Tributary series. A massive hello and welcome back to my regular viewers, and of course a warm welcome to any new viewers here for the first time. Today we are going to follow Leithen water, and I'm standing just next to it, more or less at the head of the valley. Now, unfortunately, the start of the river is high up on those hills, shrouded in trees as part of the forestry land up here. And it's not accessible easily. And even if I was able to get to the source, there'd be nothing to film because it literally is in the centre of a dense woodland. It's quite short, it's only 11 miles long from its source, and it's not a particularly deep river. The name Leithen is derived from the Irish Gaelic language, meaning grey water. Leithen water normally runs clear and cold, as you'll see from some of the close-up footage that I've taken, but following heavy rain it has a tendency to turn a muddy grey colour. The valley it flows down consists of glacial moraine, and that's the debris left behind when a glacier melts. Obviously we're talking about the last ice age here, so it's not surprising that it becomes discoloured when the river is swollen, because it picks up this glacial debris and carries it downstream. And as you'll see at the end of the programme, it's you can see where it's dumped all of this glacial debris, pebbles, mud and what have you, and it's dumped it where it meets the Tweed, and we'll see that at the end of the programme. An Irish monk called St. Ronan passed through the town of Innerleithen in 737 AD, so that might account for the Irish connection to the name of the river as well. Leithen water, as I said, begins high up in a group of hills called Moorfoot Hills, and those are the ones you can see in the distance there behind me. Like most of Tweeddale, the forestry owns the land here, so the actual source of the river, as I've just said before, is shrouded in dense forest and topped with more wind farms. The forest that grew here in the past was part of the Great Caledonian Forest, and the area on the top of Moorfoot Hills was given to the monks of Newbattle Abbey by King Alexander III between 1250 and 1280. After the religious reformation of the mid-1500s, the estate passed into private ownership. As the river emerges from the forest, it begins to twist its way down the valley between the steep-sided hills. Within half a mile, the river passes under a small bridge close to a farm. Just below the bridge, it is joined by a small burn called Williams-Lee Burn. The river becomes a bit wider and continues down the valley until it enters another wooded area, where it passes in front of quite a striking property. It's thought that a peel tower may have been here some time prior to the house being built, as was the case with many of these mansion houses. What is certain is that around 1660 a manor house was built on the land here, known as Leithen Hopes. In 1852 the house was bought by John Miller, who extended the house considerably and fitted a hydro heating system, the first in Scotland. He renamed the house Lethan Lodge, and that is still its name today. Miller was a railway engineer from Edinburgh who migrated here with the new rail companies that sprang up in Victorian times. In 1885 the house had a new wing added, designed by Sidney Mitchell, adding to the already unique look. In 2004 it was bought by the Martin family, who still own the property today. I believe that Leithan Lodge can be rented for vacation stays as a self-catering B&B. A small two-arched bridge carries a water pipe from the reservoir in the hills to the house. A few hundred metres further downstream, Leithen Water is joined by Glentress Burn and the B709 from Dewar. Within 200 metres of this junction are the ruins of Colker Tower, built in the 1500s. Not much of it remains today, but it would have been a typical Scottish tower house of that period, with a vaulted ground floor and rooms above. Leithen water continues to meander down the valley for about 2 miles, occasionally joined by other small burns. It then runs through the manicured landscape of Innerleithen golf course. Here the B709 crosses onto the west bank of the river and becomes Leithen Road. This is the site of Innerleithen Dam. By using the winding gear, water was diverted into the mill lade through the sluice gates. A lade in Scotland is an artificial water channel feeding a mill wheel. The town of Innerleithen now populates both sides of the road, with the river running down the eastern edge. Just before Leithen water enters the centre of town, it flows under Cuddy Brig. A bridge in Scotland is spoken as brig, incidentally. It was built in 1701 before the Turnpike Road was built in 1775, which is now the A72. It was built by the church to enable parishioners to cross the river at times when the ford crossing was impassable. It has been the subject of many photographers and artists through the centuries. Today it provides foot access to the fort site on Pern Hill, known as Windy Now by the local people. The hill was the site of an Iron Age Celtic settlement held by the Selgovi tribes. They were less cooperative with the Romans when they arrived than their Votadini neighbours to the east, who openly befriended the Romans. Leithen water now reaches the centre of town and flows through engineered channels and stone-lined banks. Until it finally reaches the Tweed, forming a mini delta. Most of the tributaries this far along the Tweed have joined at an oblique angle and without causing any interruption to the flow of the Tweed. However, you can quite clearly see how Leithen water meets the Tweed at right angles, and during periods of heavy rain the river has dumped large amounts of glacial debris, as I mentioned before, at its confluence with the Tweed. Obviously, the Tweed, having more force, has cut channels through the debris, forming this interesting collection of islands and water channels. Well folks, that's all for this particular episode. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, then please give it a like. Subscribe if you haven't already done that, because both of those things help to promote the channel. As I'm saying at the end of all of these episodes now, pass on the programme link to one friend or one family member. Maybe encourage them to subscribe, because that too helps to promote the channel. Those of you who may want to contribute financially, there's a lot of production cost goes into these programs, then go to the blue PayPal link at the top of my homepage and just make a small donation. £1 or £2 is all that's required. You don't need to bankrupt yourself. Not that I suppose you would do that anyway. Anyway, that's another way you can help. And of course, the thing that you can all do, whether you're subscribed or not, is to watch the programme right through to the very end, till the music stops playing and the very last title has appeared on the screen, because it's only then that YouTube record that as a view. If you switch off as the titles start, then unfortunately you've sat through an hour's programme and it hasn't benefited me at all. And obviously I always request your help and support, because without it the channel simply wouldn't run. Anyway, with all of that said, I'll wish you all the very best of health and all the very best that life has to offer. From the banks of Leithen water here on a beautiful morning, I wish you all goodbye, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye for now.